Hey guys, I'm going to introduce to you our new book that we're going to be reading. It's called Friendo. Um, it is a book about a boy who has kind of an imagination. And before we start getting into the book, I wanted to learn a little bit more about the author. The author, if you don't remember, is Andrew Clements. He was born in Camden, New Jersey in 1949, and he lived in Oakland and Cherry Hill until the middle of sixth grade. Then he moved to Springfield, Illinois, and that's not very far away from here. His parents were avid book readers, and they gave the love of books and reading to them and his brothers and sisters. He didn't think about being a writer back then, but he loved to read. Um, I'm certain there's a link between reading good books and becoming a good writer. I don't know a single writer who wasn't a reader first. Before moving to Illinois, even afterwards, our family spent summers at a cabin on a lake in Maine. There was no TV there, no phone, no doorbell, and email wasn't even invented. All day there was time to swim and fish and mess around outside every night. There was time to read. Now I know those quiet summers helped me to think like a writer. And then during chapter 2, he says, this is how he wrote his autobiography. During my senior year, an autobiography is like a brief summary about your life. And if you guys want, you could write me a brief summary about your life, but just stuff that happens in your life. Chapter 2, he calls it, Writing in School. During my senior year at Springfield High School, my English teacher handed back a poem I'd written. Two things were amazing about that paper. First, I'd gotten an A, a rare event in this teacher's class. And she'd also written a large red writing, Andrew, this poem is so funny, it should be published. That praise set me off to Northwestern University, feeling like I was pretty good writer. And occasionally, professors there also encouraged me and complimented the essays I was required to write as a literature major. But I didn't write much on my own, just some poetry now and then, and I learned to play guitar and began writing songs. But again, only when I felt like it. Writing felt like hard work, something that is still true today. Becoming a teacher. While I was at Northwestern, a professor who taught at a nearby college saw some of my writing and liked it enough to invite me to teach creative writing at a series of summer high school workshops she had organized. And that was when I learned how hard it can be to be a teacher and how rewarding and fun it can be. After I was graduating from Northwestern, I earned a Master's of Art in Teaching at a National Louis University, then taught in public schools north of Chicago for 7 years. So he's from the same state we are. Fourth grade for 2 years, eighth grade for 3 years, and high school for 2 years. Those invaluable times, I love getting to know so many people, having a year-long relationship with bright, funny kids, and also getting to read a good book and think about big ideas together. I got married my first year of teaching. During my teaching years, my wife had a career in the professional theater in Chicago. We bought our first home and our second home, and then had our first son, and then school enrollment began to decline in our area. I was fired a couple of times. They called it reduction in force. I was rehired both times, but it didn't make me feel like teaching was a career I would depend on at the time. And so we sold our home and packed up our 2.5-year-old son and moved to New York City so I could develop a truly stable career as a singer-songwriter. Didn't work out that way, of course, but during that year and a half, I did learn how to make myself sit and think and write things down, a discipline that's important for every writer. After songwriting became my first job in publishing, I worked in a small publisher who specialized in how-to books, the kind of books that have photos in them with informative captions below each one. The book in which my name first appeared in print was called A Country Christmas Treasury. I built a number of projects featured in that book. I listed as one of the craftspeople on the acknowledgement page in tiny, tiny type. After a year in the photo caption how-to world, a friend I met during college invited me to help him launch a company that imported high-quality children's books from Europe. It was while working for this company, first called Alphabet Press and then Picture Book Studio, that I began writing picture book text. As a sales manager, I got to work with a terrific crew of people who quickly taught me about the publishing business. As an editorial director, I got to work with wonderfully talented authors, illustrators, and author illustrators. I met people there who became lifelong friends, and while there, my own first picture books were published, and they kept coming. In 1990, I began to write a picture book about a boy who makes up a new word. That book eventually became my first novel, Friendo, published in 1996. And you could read the whole story of how it developed on the Friendo page of the website. Friendo became popular, more popular than any of my books before or since, at least so far. And eventually, an eventual effect of turning me into a full-time writer. I learned that I need more time in a quiet place to think and to write. My wife and I now live in Maine, not from where I spent my earliest summers. These days I spend a lot of time in my room attached to the far side of the garage, just far enough from the rest of my home to make me feel like I've gone to work. The room is larger than the small garden shed I worked in for about 20 years, but has the same desk, same chair, same paper, same pencils, same keyboard and screen, and I'm grateful to say that the books keep coming. Sometimes kids ask me how I'm able to write so many books. The answer is simple: one word at a time, which is a good lesson, I think. You don't have to do everything at once. You don't have to know how every story is going to end. You just have to take the next step. Look for that next idea. Write that next word. And growing up, it's the same way. We just have to go to the next class, read the next chapter, help the next person. You simply have to do the next good thing. Before you know it, you're living a good life. So this is our author. This is a picture of him. This is his book, and this is the book that we're reading. And I don't expect you guys to read this on your own. We're going to read it as a classic reading most of our books. And here's a picture of him. I think he was a teacher. So a teacher, a publisher, a writer. He's gotten lots of awards: a Christopher Award, a Phoenix Award, an Edgar Award. And here's a couple of his other books that he wrote. So he's written more books. But this one has sold millions of copies. So, and I know a lot of schools use this book. And this is actually at a 4.5 grade level, which is a little bit higher than what you guys read, but we're going to read it together. So I just like to have books. And here's some more, all these awards that he's won. But this is our author, and this is what we'll start reading tomorrow. All right. Well, I'll talk to you later. Remember, author is someone who writes the book. See you tomorrow. Bye.